Tea Expo, and we're here and we're going to learn about Ceylon tea. We have Duca with us, who has his family is the founders of this company, Barrington Estate. And Duca, you're passionate about tea.
Yeah, well, I was born into it. I didn't really have much choice, but I had to either do tea, like my father, or do IT.
IT.
But IT, every 3 weeks, something new. So I thought I'll stick to tea because, 3,000 years is still the same. Not going to study anything new. But there's a lot about tea. Every day, something new. Every time you drink, in the mood you are in, and you drink that same cup of tea, you feel different feelings. It's beautiful.
Duca, this is a family business, right?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Working for your parents, very difficult. But there's always tea to drink and calm yourself. My 3 generations, we've had this tea farm, and it's been a very difficult process, especially now with the change of weather patterns. And for agriculture, you really need good weather, and you need to know that it comes in a timely fashion. With now the global warming and things, it's been a hard struggle. Either it's raining hard or there's no rain at all. So farming isn't that easy. But to maintain tea qualities and to produce the maximum, it's pushed us to go back to nature and produce organic, and go back to forestry, and bring about as much balance in the farming system, so we can still control some aspect of growing and being profitable.
So Duca, you are the farmer, and so you make the decisions about how the estate is run.
Yes, we do.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. The estates, the way it is, like in Sri Lanka, it was we had a colonial, we were a British colony before, and the British ended up planting and growing tea all over Sri Lanka, and they moved a large population of people from South India and made them resident in these tea estates, as they call it, to work only in the tea farms. So running a tea farm, you have populations of 1,000 to 2,000 people resident there. They work within the tea farm. So you have very large payroll, like minimum of 400 to 1,000 people on your payroll.
Wow.
But also it's a system where it's like a village by itself, where you have to look after them, all their problems, their medical, because that's how it was set up back in the day.
There's a lot of consciousness today about fair trade.
Yes.
So that part of the certifications that growers like yourself seek, fair trade tries to look at the situation of the employees and your workers and so on. But you've kind of taken it one step beyond that, haven't you?
Well, to be fair by fair trade, they can be really frustrating to work with. But to be fair, we've had plantations for 3 generations. When the first lot of fair trade money came in for the workers, my customers said, hey, I want to know what you did with the money, what the workers did with the money. So I went around to everybody's house and I just interviewed them.
Really?
And it blew me away. All the women they got a $75 loan, and for a month they earn about $70. So they had a $75 cash loan, and what they did is all of them bought a wardrobe. I was like, hold on. I mean, you guys have been here for 3 generations, so has my family, and you guys don't have wardrobes? That's how ignorant I was. And that's how bad and marginalized they are in life. And this little bit of money that came through fair trade was a lump amount of money that they could actually get something so basic and necessary that we didn't even see. So it blew me away. So then we ourselves decided to go beyond fair trade. And now I'm happy to say we're one of the most successful. We've gone further and with fair trade built a community center. These people actually live in a private company. So they're born, and the generations they're born in, but if you ask them where they're from, they actually say, I'm from Greenfield Estate Private Limited. They don't have a village of their own. It's a really sad story. So we built a community center, and funnily, they use that for their weddings, and they also rent it out to other people, and that money goes back into the community. That's when I realized before that they used to get married under a tree. So it's little things, but it took fair trade. I have to say, actually opened eyes.
Well, and going around and talking to people individually like that, I mean, that really, you said that was kind of the beginning of really
seeing what their needs are. Like it's okay. There's a flip side to it. It's a village mentality, and what makes them happy is what fair trade gives them the money to, to buy what is really what makes the difference in their life. So we, being better off, we can decide and say, okay, they need a medical clinic, or like one guy in Colombia told me he was going to get all his workers to set up a processing plant so that they, instead of selling the coffee beans, they can process, value add, and sell it at a higher price to him.
Yes.
But all they wanted was a soccer ground. So that's what they got, because that's what makes them happy.
Yeah. So finding out what people's needs are and meeting it.
Yeah.
That's probably the most fundamental of all things you can do.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Well, good. Well, give us an idea of how big your farms are and
We've got 3 farms. One's called Greenfield Estate. It's in Uva region of Sri Lanka, southern part of the hills. It's at 6,000 feet. It's got a big steep climb drop, so it's got beautiful tea coming from adverse weather conditions that produce the Uva character tea. Then we have Harrington Estate in the Dimbula region. That produces strong-bodied, also fragrant teas, good black teas. We also have 2 other farms where we produce herbs like lemongrass, ginger, cinnamon, cardamom, all organic, pepper. Now what we're trying to do is we've got a 3rd garden which is conventional, not organic, but it's we're supplying bigger guys because it's Rainforest Alliance, which is a different concept.
Yeah, you have to be sensitive to all those things.
I think, like, we started in 1992 when we got certified organics. In the 90s, with all these crazy things like mad cow disease and things, organics was important. In the 2000s, it was all about fair trade. I think the next 10 years is going to be about environment. I really feel it's going to be about environment. So,
like, what do you mean by environment?
I think the consumer is now going to see if the packaging is actually sustainable. It's going to see things like, even though we produce, like, let me show you what we're doing. We're trying to produce, when the whole global warming question,
yes,
as it is, we cut down forests to farm because the population is growing and we're cutting down a lot of forests. So a forest actually is like this. It has 5 canopy layers. That's what a real forest is, right? Normally what we do is we cut up forests and then we have monocrops, just one crop. So what we're trying to do is actually do what's called a forest garden concept, where we farm, but instead of doing monocropping, we will try and bring back the biodiversity, right? This is the forest garden concept. And what we're trying to do is grow a farm but copying the forest. So we would have big trees like this, large fruit trees. We have avocado. And then you have lower, smaller trees, dwarf trees, where you can have pepper and vanilla. And then you have shrubs, which could be the tea. And then in the middle here, you could have pineapple, coffee, and even peppermint leaves right at the bottom. But you're copying the forest, and you're creating a forest garden. The real deal here is that it's got an ecological balance. So you've got all the bugs and bees and everything. So you don't really need chemicals to control your diseases and things. Also, as a forest, you're taking out more carbon dioxide and putting more carbon into the soil. So you're also winning the global warming battle. So you also, the plus point is you get free carbon credits on this. So for every kilo of tea we produce, we also produce carbon credits. So I think it's a better way. I mean, at the end of the day, you got to do something every day to make a difference, a better life for everybody,
world.
Better world. And that's what we do. We're trying.
Well, I think it's great. About how many tons of tea do your gardens produce?
We do about 330 tons. To be fair, we're doing about 500,000 kilos or 500 tons. But after the financial crisis in 2008, 2009, a lot of our customers, I mean, even every wife going shopping was, they didn't want to spend more. So organics got hit very badly. With that, we got affected because most customers panicked. They ran through their inventory without ordering. So we went through a lot of difficulty, and we were forced to convert some of our organic lands back to chemical because it's cheaper to produce, and there was always a conventional market. So
it's interesting how market forces can shape organic farming.
Well, the reality is that the consumers who are buying organics were still buying organics, but there's a big industry between the consumer and the producer.
Yes.
And the industry is all about maximizing profit. So, and they decide what gets on the supermarket shelf, and they decide what they're going to buy from us. So every consumer I meet says what I do is great, but I try to sell it through the industry to the consumer.
Sure.
It's a different story.
It shapes the market.
Yeah.
Well, tell me more about kind of your passion for tea. I can tell you're passionate about this. You grow it. You know how the land works. You've got an incredible forest garden philosophy of how you mimic the rainforest. You're conscientious in all these things. That's a lot of topics, but what are you really passionate about?
Interesting. Let me tell you this. In life, as much as you do, and we're pushed to do more and more and more, and perform more and more and more, which is supposed to be better. So now, I actually know a guy who could text while driving with a touchscreen phone. So we're all multitasking, and we're good at it. And the more we can do it, the better we are supposed to be. But for me, I think for everybody else as well, when you make a cup of tea, you're going to have a cup of tea because you need a break, right? But when you make a cup of tea and you have the first sip, you don't multitask. Everything stops. Everything stops. You probably even close your eyes and you sip it. But you need it, and you need that moment to yourself. Tea actually gives you a moment to yourself. The only other way is, go in the forest and meditate. So I think tea gives us a bit of touch with our soul.
Yeah.
It's beautiful, and I love producing it if that's what it is.
Yeah, and that's what you're passionate about.
Yeah.
I love that.